Right, a fascinating conversation ensues from now on. Sophia, we had to discuss
family planning.
Planning for a family is much better,
Planning for a family.
Planning for family,
Yeah. I hope you have. If you haven't done that, you may want to just sit there.
Should I ask you, what family planning methods?
What family planning methods should be? Because I know where that question is going. I shall not allow it to go there. And indeed, we're going to be opening it up for everybody to be part of our phone lines. Our phone numbers will be on your screens to be part of this conversation. Joining me in studio today is Esther Mutua, who's Director, Resource Mobilization, Family Health Options, Kenya. Thank you for joining us. And Caroline Kwamboka, Senior Manager, External Relations and Advocacy, PPF Africa region. I got that right?
Yes, right.
Thank you both ladies for being with us for this conversation. I was talking about family planning. What in essence are we saying, or planning for a family, as James would like to put it?
Family planning in essence is allowing couples and women to have children if and when they would like to have those children or to build a family.
Right.
So it's really about the process and interventions that come into play when we want to enable these couples choose when to have to build their families.
To build their families. Is it a common practice here in Kenya, especially? Do we see people coming together to actually have that conversation? Let's plan, or do we have a more of a freestyle, free flow situation? Is there a challenge there?
I think if we talk about family planning in Kenya, and being that we are encouraging couples to decide freely on what method they want to use and how to plan for the families to get the desired number of children. And we have methods that are readily available. But if we look at a bit of history, in the 80s, we used to have a very vibrant family planning program that really went out to create awareness on family planning, and people are very well informed about the different family planning methods that are available. So over the years, we have seen an improvement really in the number of women taking up family planning methods. If we look at our contraceptive prevalence rate, really talking about the number of women who are on modern family planning methods, the rate now we are at 46%. And compared the total fertility rate, looking at the average number of women, children per woman, we are now at 4.6, which is a significant improvement from the 70s when we were at 8.1. That means on average a woman would have 8 children. So I would say that we have made major strides when it comes to family planning. However, we still need to have more efforts to reposition family planning here, because we had some stagnation over a period of time. Because if we compare 2003 against 2008, our demographic health survey, which was the last one was done in 2008, and now preparations are underway for us to do the next demographic health survey, which will be in 2014. In 2003, we had the contraceptive prevalence rate was at 9%. In 2008, we made some slight improvement to 46%, and now we are all looking forward to see what does the new the demographic health survey that is currently underway.
All right, and is it the information that you're putting out there in terms of family planning, or is it the harsh economic times that perhaps are seeing people being more careful in as far as, having bigger families?
I think it's an issue of first people getting to know what family planning methods are. So we have awareness and demand creation, and then we also have deliberate efforts that have been made both by the government and also partners to support family planning initiatives. If we look at our policy environment in Kenya, it's quite conducive for family planning. We have our National Reproductive Health Policy of 2007, which prioritizes family planning as one of the reproductive health components. If we look at our National Reproductive Health Strategic Plan that runs from 2009 to 2015, family planning is still a priority. If we look at our Kenya Essential Package of Health, which is looks at the service delivery levels across the different across the different levels at the community level, the hospital, the health center, family planning is still prioritized. And in the 80s, one of the factors that made family planning uptake go up was the very vibrant community-based distribution of contraceptives, which are now Family Health Options Kenya. Then family planning was very active in that. So and now we are still seeing then repositioning of family planning through introducing the community-based distributors of contraceptives. And we also have a community strategy, which is part of the Ministry of Health strategy to increase access to services, especially at level 1, where community health workers can provide information in some select family planning methods. So I think we are making good progress, but we still need to do some more.
You sound very optimistic about where we are. Carol, in as far as why it is important, and perhaps the message that is usually put out there by those, of course, encouraging people to practice this and plan for their families, why is it important to plan?
Family planning is very important on several layers. One, it has the medical dimension of it, because it allows a woman to really take a breather, so to speak, between one child and another, and give the body time to really heal and come back to the strength. And during this time, this mother is able to give attention to the newborn who is growing. So on that note, it's really considered very important. But beyond that, family planning has also been researched and found to be very important in as an empowerment tool, because the woman is also enabled to really have a space out time to engage in other socioeconomic activities within the community, and not to mention that this is really one of the most reliable ways to prevent unintended and unplanned pregnancies. And as research and real practice demonstrates to us, unintended pregnancies and unplanned pregnancies are really the leading reason why women procure unsafe abortions. And if we are to prevent the so-called really unsafe abortions within our community, which the rates are quite unacceptable, then it is very important to enable access to family planning methods of choice to the women who would like to access this. And there are many other reasons why family planning is really important, because you realize couples can actually sit down and choose to have the size of family that they can afford to raise and give enough socioeconomic and physical, including psychological attention to. So really, this is something that is all-rounded and has benefits both for the women and for the couple and family at large.
Yeah, I like that you said that towards the end, because I was going to go to that. Is it purely a preserve of women when we're saying family planning? Because majority would misunderstand the whole conversation to be about women, because they're the ones who give birth. But men as well, important to have that conversation with them.
Definitely. The methods that we have right now in the health facility points and within the market are available both for men and women. The only reason that women methods are more likely to be mentioned often is because the variety is more, and for men they are limited but equally effective in terms of preventing or helping the couple limit or rather have the children that they would like to have. Yes.
Yeah. And also to add on to what Carol is saying, when we talk about why family planning, we want to make sure that families do not have children at the right time, so that they are not too many, too few, they don't start too early, and they also don't get children when it's too late. So we need to ensure that the family is very well, they understand all this. And talking about the male involvement, we know in our African culture, men are still the custodians of most of these decisions. So if, and the mistake I would say for now, family planning still has a feminine face.
True.
And I think as we look at how can we make family planning more acceptable and ensure that we have higher uptake of family planning, we need to involve men more, so that they are involved from the word go. They understand fully what is family planning, because when you go out there and you talk to many men, they do not really understand what family planning is all about. It's been left to women, and that's your domain. But now we are saying, can we maybe relook at our strategies and see how to involve men more, so that they understand from the word go, it's a family or a couple affair, not just for women. And when we have our men on board, then they give us the support as women, and we are able to discuss some of these issues, because I will discuss about the different family planning methods. There are certain side effects that may be associated with different methods, and when the men are fully aware about it, then as a couple they sit and then they discuss these issues, and that also encourages and enhances the bond between the family, because it's an issue of discussion when you come involvement, and you get that involvement.
Okay. Yeah, good you bring that out, that they also have a role to play, because I feel like a lot of the material and conversations and information out there is really women based, women targeted, women focused, and perhaps a lot of that needed, so that, as you said, you know, they're more involved, more accepting, and more part of the whole process, in a way that at the end of it all, there are no misunderstanding, gray areas in it all. But let's go to the methods. What are some of those methods? Saying family planning, so a couple is out there, they want to get into this. What are the options they have?
Yeah, actually, there are several methods that are used or other that are promoted within the health setting.
Right.
And of these methods, we have the oral pill. So I mean, this has to do with the methods that involve ingestion, swallowing the pill. We also have injectables that are used, meaning that within a certain period of time, or within certain periods of time, the woman is then expected to go to the health service delivery point and have an injectable actually administered into her, and sometimes these work from between short to medium term, I guess, to a quarter. Then we also have the implants that come in different versions. You probably heard of the no plants in the past. We now have the Jadel, and maybe I would let Esther, who is really at the service delivery point, expound more about these methods. We also have the other methods. We have the coil that is able, that is also inserted and has a method of working to prevent pregnancy. So Esther, if you'd like to expand more on this, as you are practicing the day-to-day administration of the same.
Thanks, Caroline. I think we have different family planning methods, and I'll just go according to the different classifications. So we have the hormonal methods, and the hormonal methods, as Caroline had alluded to, we have the pills, which we have progestin only pills. That means they have only one hormone that resembles the natural hormone in the human body. Then we have the combined oral pills. That means they have two hormones. Then we have the injectables. So the injectables, we have the 1 month, the 2 month, and 3 month injections. And then we also have the implants, which the implants, we have two types. There's the one that comes in 2 rods, the Jadel, which provides contraception protection for 5 years. And we have the Implanon, which is 1 rod and provides contraception for 3 years. These ones contain 1 hormone. Then we have the intrauterine devices. The intrauterine devices, we have the coil, the copper T, which is commonly known. And apart from that is maybe copper releasing, we also have a hormone releasing intrauterine device, which releases the hormone progesterone. Then we also have the natural family planning methods, whose effectiveness is quite low compared to other methods. And we have the voluntary surgical contraception, where we have the BTL, the bilateral tubal ligation, and we also have the vasectomy. The BTL is for women, vasectomy is for men. Yes.
And those are quite permanent?
Yes, those are permanent methods. The vasectomy and BTL are permanent. The rest of the methods are not permanent. We have the short term and we have the long acting. The long acting are the implants and the IUCD, and then the short acting are the pills and the injectables. And the condom also is of course it's a dual protection. So it protects against sexually transmitted infections, including HIV as well as pregnancy.
All right.
Yes.
And because a variety you've been able to highlight. So for a person seeking to get into one of this, what should inform that kind of a decision? What is what you weigh to say, okay, I'm going to go for this option or I'm going to go for the other? What should be put into consideration?
I think first client counseling is very important, and taking the history of the client to get to understand everybody, because we all react differently to different family planning methods. And the World Health Organization has developed a criteria known as the medical eligibility criteria, which outlines what kind of family planning method is suitable for a client who has maybe a particular condition. And the service providers are very well versed with that. And it has 4 categories, where you usually have the category 1, you can use the method at any time. Category 2, of course, the benefits outweigh the risk. Then there's category 3 and category 4, where even maybe when you have a certain condition, you should not use that particular method. And that's why we are very keen on the clients going to the service provider so that they are given the accurate and complete information, and also do the history taking physical assessment to ensure that in case a client chooses a particular method, then they have the adequate information. There are some methods like the pill and the condoms that are usually distributed by the community-based distributors of contraceptives or the community health workers. Those ones, the client does not necessarily have to go to the health facility, but then the community health workers are equipped with the information to do the eligibility of the clients for the particular methods. But then we also advise that if a client has been maybe put on a number of cycles, they need to also go and see the healthcare provider so that they can be evaluated as time goes by. Yeah, because one of the challenges we've had is the myths and misconceptions about family planning.
Yes, and that's major.
That's a major concern that has been affecting uptake at the community level. And that's why there's need for that accurate and correct information, where everyone knows, if I have to take up this method, this is the right information about this method. Okay,
and at some point we'll get into some of those myths and misconceptions that are out there. But condoms is one of those that we see a lot of, it's highlighted most of the time, as you said, at the community level. People will know more about that. But we're also seeing quite a lot of abuse when it comes to the pills, especially the morning after, and with the younger generation. What's going to be done about that? Because the abuse that it's being taken, I think, even more than it should, the span of time.
Yeah, I think it's very important for we start from our side for us to step up the demand creation for the mainstream methods of family planning, and to educate, especially those that seem ostracized. And a very big category of our youth and adolescents may not have been targeted deliberately in the past years. As my colleague has explained here, there is the encouragement of having couples and women visit the service delivery point. But some of our health service centers or delivery points are not youth friendly, and this keeps the young people away, not only from the center but away from the facts and the education that we are able to offer within those settings. Now, the most popular method of exchange of information among the young generation is really word of mouth. So anyone who has access to the emergency contraception and it worked on them for that particular moment will go ahead and spread the information without the facts of what it means to utilize emergency contraception, how it works, what is the most important time. They shouldn't be taken more than once a month, to be honest, because the ovulation only takes once. Ovulation only takes place once a month in a cycle. But the young people are not fully aware of this fact, so they will take emergency contraception every time they engage in sexual relations, and this then poses a challenge both to the service providers and to those who are utilizing and abusing especially the emergency contraception. So you can see there is really work on both sides for us to reach out and provide youth-friendly services, and for those who are abusing this method out there to actually be aware that they are abusing, and there is a range of variety of methods available for them in the health center, and we invite them to visit the Family Health Options Clinic and any other service delivery point near them to get full education on the variety of methods that they can use.
There needs to be a sense of taking charge of that even from a young age. I'll let you add on that in a short while, but let's first take a call from Paul. He's calling us from Nairobi. Paul, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm great, thanks for calling. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I wanted to say that family planning is more about mindset, because I'll give my own personal story. Like another day, I was blessing an old lady with some few coins, and she just said back to me, "May you be blessed. May you have many children." And so, what maybe this person thinks is that when you have more children, you're blessed. I mean, you have more advantage. Then I still have another case whereby where I go to do my shopping around the kiosks where I live, because I have one child, a boy. The mama there called me one day and told me, Paul, I think now you need another child. And when I looked at it, I said, what does he see that he thinks I need another child? So it's like people talk around, say, you see this person has only one child or two. It will be like they will be backbiting. And so the mindset will mostly affect men, because you see, men will think that they are being challenged, that you don't have more children, then maybe you're useless.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would want to say this family planning is not a one-man show. And the more the men would be involved in this, the better. I would want to see two men being caught against one woman, because that would win the war on this one. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Well said. Some of those things which we'll touch on as we continue the conversation, but very important that in fact men must be more involved. Fatma is also calling us. Fatma, good morning. Fatma?
Good morning.
Thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Good morning. I hear you.
Yes, I have a question, please.
All right, go ahead.
I'm asking about the method he said about the pills, yeah?
Yeah.
Is it okay if someone takes them every time? It's dangerous.
When you say every time, how often do you mean? Every day, every week, every month?
After like 3 months, he takes the pills, and then another 3 months, he takes again the pills. Like 5 years, he takes the pills twice.
All right, Fatma, thank you.
Later in the future.
After effects. Thank you very much, Fatma, for watching and for your question. So I'll let you first finish on what we're talking about earlier, then we'll go to the callers and the issues they've been able to raise. And we're talking about the abuse of the pills, and that condom is what is more mainstream, what is more acceptable. And yet there's so many options, but the information is not perhaps all out for everybody.
We usually see abuse of emergency contraceptives, especially among the young people.
Right.
And just to look at statistics a bit, 42% of our population is below 15 years, and we are talking about 16.5 million.
Wow.
And every year, 100,000 young people are turning 16. If we look at our demographic health survey for 0809,
right.
By age 15, 22% of boys have already had sex, and 11% of girls have already started sexual activity.
Age 15?
By age 15.
Okay.
And we also have variations where it's even earlier in certain regions, but then we're just looking at the national average. So that is a definite indication that we're having sexual activity at a very early age. And what tends to happen for most of these adolescents and youth, they usually go for the emergency contraceptive pill, and continued and regular use of emergency contraceptive pill increases the failure rate. So they end up getting all these teenage pregnancies.
Yeah. And that, I guess you can touch and answer on Fatma's question, because that's what she's talking about. You know, how often do you take this? You hear some people talking about just twice in 1 year for the emergency pill. Can she take them after every 3 months? The failure, can it still work?
Yes, and what we encourage, if someone finds that they're actually sexually active, they will need to take emergency contraceptives so often, we encourage them to be put on a more regular family planning method, because that at least will reduce the failure rate, and this client will be covered all along. Because what tends to happen is they need to get a method that they can comply with, because then there's also the issue of missed pills. If someone is on the oral contraceptive pill, and they will at some point, if you miss 2 or maybe 3 subsequent pills, then that becomes a problem. So we'll also have to look at issues of compliance when choosing on which particular method that a client needs to take for. But we encourage that emergency contraceptive pills should not be used on a regular basis, because with increased failure, how often? Maybe if they use once in a month, like what Fatma was asking, twice in a year. Okay, twice in a year, that's fine.
After every 3 months?
After every 3 months you keep using, that also keeps on interfering with the normal cycle. So at some point you'll find that you're having irregular, cycles, or the cycle is not well planned, so you are likely to end up getting pregnant.
All right.
Yes.
So for Fatma, if she knows or whoever is active sexually, then they need to find something that's
more regular,
and
that will provide
safe.
that, and provide that contraception.
All right. And let's talk about Paul brought in the issue, which is it's a fact in the African setting.
Yeah.
You know, when a man just has one child or two, then you're like, oh, does this person have issues at home? You know, why isn't there? It's when you have 5 or 6 or 7, then you're like the man, total man. But it's a thought, a mindset that needs to change. Right?
Yeah, definitely. What Paul is bringing out is the gender bias that exists within our communities, especially in Africa. And sometimes it even goes beyond the having one child, and to the extent that even if you have 10 girls, then you are still expected to produce a son out of that. So it even sometimes goes beyond the number and goes into the specific gender, but all of this is within the context of how we perceive, we value children as African society, and this is true and not bad, but we also have to accept that having a quality family is really no longer about the numbers, because our society, or the providence that was available within our environment 100 years ago, is no longer the same providence that nature can provide to sustain this big number. So it is therefore very important for us to consider the access of needs. What is the economic access or socioeconomic capacity that we have to sustain these large numbers of children? And when you really look at it, it's difficult. The economic times are tougher. The environment can no longer sustain or provide as it used to be. We are now in a commodity-based society where we have to purchase every single thing that we need to consume within the household, and such factors really bring us back to questioning ourselves how many. But let us think also back to the health of the mother. When we look at the whole world, every single day we lose 800 women to maternal mortality. Okay, when we come back home in this country, the figures up to the end of 2013 was in excess of 6,300. I think it was even going into 7,000 of those that were accounted and documented. So you can imagine there are also instances of non-documented cases of maternal mortality. When you really bring it back home on a daily basis, it means every single hour in this country we are going to lose a mother in the process of mothering or bringing life. So life is being lost in the process of bringing life. And when we really look at the causes behind it, one of the causes is this frequent mistimed, unintended pregnancies. The woman is giving birth too many times than the body can actually bear, than the body can bear. So when you really think through it, family planning is really a method or something that can actually help us even reduce maternal mortality. And sometimes even the mother is able to survive this gruesome mothering process, then we lose the infant. Okay? So if there are too many children being born to the same mother, too often the previous one has hardly grown off the breast, the next one is on its way, nutrition gets affected, there are so many other challenges interplaying, and we are either going to lose the mother or the child or both of them, or end up with very adverse health effects within that family. So there's every reason to limit the number of children, because we want a healthy family and we want a healthy nation.
And I want you to also just think about the challenges. We'll talk about that. We've touched on a couple, but going forward and pushing the discussion forward, what are those challenges that need to be addressed as far as family planning is concerned? Of course, the access to information to men is one, and to the youth and others. But let's first pick to David, who's calling us. David, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for calling.
Yes.
Go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, I was asking about this, right now, for instance, my wife, when she's taking bills, when she taken, she tried bills and they were bringing problems to her.
Okay.
She opted to an injection. An injection started bringing problems. Now we opted to natural family planning. So I think for all these years we have been practicing it. We have 3 children now. One is in university, the other one is in class 7, the other one is in nursery. So here is my neighbors who had been using the the family planning. Right now, he has a breast cancer. Now, what can we do about this?
Okay. All right, David, thank you very much for watching and for your question this morning. So, David, before we get into that, we have another caller. We'll get to David's question. Good morning. Who's our caller this morning? Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Tell us your name and go ahead with your contribution.
I'm Dr. Rwanda.
Sorry?
Hello, I'm Dr. Rwanda.
Yes.
From Meru.
All right.
Yes. Now, my contribution is, I really applauded you on what you are doing. That's the thing that is fun. My suggestion is, we need to, in the approach to family planning, we need more to involve the youth, because this is a growing population. And when you consider the youth and all what it can be attained by passing the information to the youth, we will see that by the end of the day, we are going to make a lot of impact than just facing the general population. And this one can only happen if we can be able to mark the institutions where the youth are, and then the information is adequately passed to the youth. And once they receive this one, we will be sure of the controlled population, well-advised family planning practices in the now and in the future.
Well said, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching and your contribution as well. We'll begin with David. I don't know, you perhaps will help us with that one. He's talking about they used the pills and then the injections, and they had effects on her, severe, and now they've gone the natural way. She's unwell as well. What advice do you give to such a person?
For me, I'm happy that David has brought up that question. And as I earlier mentioned, is that every client responds differently to different family planning methods. And it's not only unique to family planning methods, even other drugs. So this is a case-by-case, which service providers usually handle. There are certain side effects that, of course, with the pills and the injectables will have. David didn't say exactly what happened, what side effect we were dealing here with, but what happens when such a client comes to the healthcare provider, they're usually counseled and taken through the different methods. Some of these side effects, especially in the first 3 months of initiating a family planning method, they are more common. But then with time, after the 3 months, as the body gets used to these family planning methods, they subside. And in the event that they do not subside and the client would want an alternative method, we have the full method mix that the client is usually cancelled on, and then they are put on a method that they are comfortable with.
So they need a specialist and expert advice on the same.
Yes. Okay. So it's important for them to always go to the service provider, and not because what happens most of the times, we have our peers who usually advise us on, if
I did this is what I need to do.
But it's good to get an expert opinion, so that before someone makes a decision, whichever decision to stop that method, discontinue or start on another method, they have that expert opinion.
All right.
Yes.
Bring in the issue of the challenges one more time as we bring this to a close, because Dr. Rwanda has given a solution, and that's what we want, more solutions going forward. That there needs to be targeted material going to the youth in as far as this family planning is concerned.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Rwanda. I think he's really bringing out a very strong point, and in the sector we define this as really utilizing family planning methods, or mobilizing our young people to uptake, so that we can take advantage of what we call the demographic dividend. It is true that the largest potential, there's an inbuilt potential within our young generation to reproduce, and they really have a very big momentum to be the ones contributing the most into the population growth of this country. And it is very important that we help them plan their future families and utilize that, so that the momentum they have now can be turned into socioeconomic benefits, and that they can utilize the energy and all the talents they have in turning the economy rather than in reproducing too many children. You know, the fertility period, actually the fertility window that we are talking about is between 15 and 49, and as you can imagine, if you start getting children at 15, as she was explaining, the sexual abuse starting in very early, then the potential of that family or that couple to get children is really large. And if we want to build our society, it is true that family planning has a direct impact on the investment and socioeconomic benefits of a country, because they can postpone when they want to start their families, and they can utilize that time to better engage in economic activities. But going into the real challenges that we are faced with, very briefly, we have challenges in policy, implementing policies that exist even within the continent, and these policies are the drivers of funding investment. And that is why organizations like IPPF and others around the world are promoting the investment of resources into family planning and into sexual reproductive health, sexual reproductive health and rights issues at large. And in doing so, we are having campaigns around family planning 2020, and even encouraging governments to invest into family planning, so that this is not only a donor affair, that it is not only the external, that our governments also understand the kind of investments we need, because the services are demanded at the service delivery point. And we want to make sure that the necessary resources are available, so that we can have the chance to implement the policies that have been passed, at international and regional levels as such.
All right, and the show is just coming to an end now, and of course, even what you've said, perhaps with devolution coming into play, even resources and information that the county governments need to be able to take up to push it down to the grassroots levels around the country. Ladies, thank you both very much for joining us this morning. Esther Mutua, Director Resources, Mobilization, Family Health Options, Kenya, and Caroline Kwamboka, Senior Manager, External Relations and Advocacy, IPPF Africa Region. Thank you. Very useful conversation, of course, one that we cannot exhaust, but definitely we appreciate you for making time for the show.
Can we invite people to the Vision 2020?
Please.
IPPF, yes, IPPF is running a campaign on the 15th of May, and this is the Vision 2020. It's a campaign to ensure that 10 promises and 10 asks are forwarded to governments around Africa. We invite you to go into our website, ippf.org and ippfr.org and fhok.org, and sign up to the petition to support family planning efforts around the continent and in Kenya as well. Thank you very much.
I'll be tweeting that information just in case people missed it, to be able to catch it online. And thank you for watching, and those who took the time to call us, tweet in as well. Much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.